Hey guys, welcome back. We are back with a new series. I told you that we were going to do a complete custom loop for our AI PC, and we have finally got all the pieces to start that. So let's get into it. So guys, as you can see, we have a bunch of parts here. Many of you have probably seen our original build where we did it completely air-cooled and using an AIO, but we were always saying we were going to do a proper custom loop. We now finally have the parts to do that. I just wanted to go through what parts we're doing. In a couple of the other videos, we'll go through the bending and just doing the proper build. But I just wanted to go through some of the things that we planned out and some of the things we just sort of happened upon because of the issues we had with the original build. When we first did the build, I'll pop a link in the corner just so you can, if you haven't already seen it, do check back and look at it, because you know we found quite a few problems with, even with the 011 Dynamic XL. We found a couple of problems, and most of them weren't the problems of the case, more to do with the hardware that we were using. I'll go through some of these that we've got here. So first up, we've got our radiators. We have two of these XE360 radiators. So those will go in the top and the bottom. They're quite hefty radiators, but the Dynamic XL can quite easily cope with them, I hope. So, you know, just like last time, we are experimenting a little bit with what is possible. And then what we've got is, because in the original build, we did a push-pull dynamic with the fans. So for those who don't know, so one set of fans is on one side and another set is on the other. So one set of fans pulls the air towards the radiator, the other set of fans pushes out the air from the radiator to sort of try and give it a bit of more improvements for airflow. So to do that, we had to go with this SE360. So this is a slim radiator, but to do that, because we have this EK distribution plate, so what happens with this one is that it goes right in place of the glass front of the 011 Dynamic XL. But because of this, there might not be enough space to have the radiator and the fans on one side. So what we've got is we've got these Noctua fans. So these will go so that you can't see them. So obviously brown and beige, we don't want this for this build, but they're not seen. So they're the 15mm fans. So with that and this, it's enough to fit within the gap for the 011 Dynamic XL. And so it means that we can fit both of those and then screw in the other Lian Li fans. So that way it fits perfectly fine. And that way it's only 25mm for the Lian Li fans and should be enough space to manage for this. Alongside that, we have the AVerMedia card to go into the PC. So I've got an Xbox Series X beside the PC, and this way it's just easy for me to plug it into there and then plug the other one into the monitor. So then that way we've got an easy way to stream this alongside doing PC streaming as well. So that just makes our lives easier. And it does 4K as well, so that's ideal. The other things we've got are things I hadn't actually planned for, but here we have these Thermaltake RGB fittings. So here we have our Thermaltake RGB fittings. Now, yeah, these weren't planned for originally, but the whole theme is RGB, and you might as well do it. We'll see how it goes. There is a lot of RGB already, but I want to optimize it as much as possible. And I was always going for the Mystic Fog cryofield stuff. It distributes the light quite well for RGB. So I figured, you know, stick with that. We'll see what happens with the RGB fittings. If it works, great. You know, it makes it look fantastic. If it doesn't, then it may have been a waste of money, but we can only try. You know, alongside that, so obviously if you had seen the original video, you would have found that we weren't able to get our second 3090 into the build. We have so the only people that actually make these are Bits Power. So we've got our water blocks for our 3090. So KFA2, Galax. I'm not sure why they've got two names, but they have two names. The only people that make them are Bits Power, and I've got two of them. They are hefty, so they're probably just as heavy as the air coolers, but we've got two of them, so I need to attach them to the graphics cards, and that way we'll actually be able to use this, our NVLink, and be able to start using SLI. And so not mainly for gaming, but we'll be able to use that for our work with AI. We've already used the PC for AI optimization anyway. It just means we've got a bit more power to deal with. And one thing you will also notice is we have this, which is a new motherboard. Now, there is nothing wrong with our current motherboard. So our current motherboard is a Crosshair Formula. It's a ridiculous motherboard. I mean, it's probably one of the top of the line motherboards. But the only difference is that the Dark Hero that we have here has dynamic overclocking. Dynamic overclocking lets us take advantage of two different overclocking methods, I would say. So it lets us boost for multi-core performance, but also lets us boost for single core performance. So in that respect, it means that because the PC we're using is for essentially two use cases. We want to use it for gaming and streaming, but also we want to use it for AI modeling. And because of that, we want to be able to take advantage of the dynamic overclocking. So single core use case in terms of gaming, getting highest frame rates, because most games are not optimized for multi-core processors. And then also getting the highest boost for all-core performance using our AI models. And that way we get to process as many data points as possible. So then our models get done quicker. We get to utilize the data from them and optimize them even further, because we find out if there are problems coming from that data. We have all this kit. What I'm going to do before we do anything is actually make sure these radiators are flushed. So what I mean by that is running a whole load of distilled water through all of them so that we can get any flux out. And then we will start putting all of this together. So we'll take apart the original PC, get all the cables out, get the old motherboard out. But what we will do with that old motherboard is we will be using that for a different project. And we will get my daughter involved with that, because we will be using that motherboard for our VR system. And we will show you that process as well. We've got our heat gun over here. which should be sufficient enough to help bend our tubings. I did get a higher value one of those ones, just because the low value ones were either 300 degrees C or 600 degrees C as their heat options, whereas this one has a couple of, you can set the temperature to whatever you want really, and that way I can make sure I don't either overheat or underheat to get ideal bends. It's going to be our first time doing this, so it's not going to be perfect, but it is a learning process, and I want to show you guys that learning process to see how we get along with it, and see how we get on with all of these different challenges. And as well, so with the whole process, we've got a couple of methods that we can use, especially with the radiator setup, because we have, with this distribution block, we have the top radiator sort of outlets. There is a way of doing it with both of these radiators, because technically both of them are top radiators in this sense. So we've got a bit of soft tubing just to have it at the back if we decide to do a route that goes round the back and then back into the block, or we figure it out. It's all sort of dependent on how much space we've got, because one of the challenges I did get in the past build is, because we didn't have custom cables, there was a lot of space taken up by all the cables, especially with having those Lee trimmer cables. So we'll sort of see what happens. I mean, I've got a additional sort of RGB hub, just so we can take care of these. If that's enough, then perfect. Otherwise, I'll have to get another one, because we do have a lot of RGB in this whole build. Once it's all done, this thing will look amazing. So I will leave this as it is, guys. I mean, I will see you in the next video, where we start getting into action really, and changing the water blocks on the graphics cards, setting up the water blocks on the CPU, and just getting it all ready to start bending tubes. I'll probably practice a little bit before we do the videos with the tubes, because this is my first time. But I want to show you the whole journey, so I will show you all the bad things that I do, because I assure you there will be some. So thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.